Hello, welcome everyone to your weekly Latina mental health series with Latina professionals. I'm so excited to be with all of you today, especially because there's a special treat. We have an amazing guest that I can't wait for you guys to get to know and learn so much about just her expertise. So it's going to be such an empowering session today. For those of you that are new to this weekly Latina mental health series, welcome. Bienvenidos a todos. Typically, we are here every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern time. And so please, we want to know where it is that you're coming from, what city are you from, what industry are you in, and also what is it that you're looking forward to and learning in today's session. For those of you that continue to join me every week, I appreciate your consistency and your commitment to be here with me, but also the commitment that you make to yourself to want to be here and learn and just better yourself in all aspects of your life, specifically, with mental health. And so for today's session, as usually, it is about 30 minutes. And so during that time, we will start with providing, a presentation on a specific topic, all related, to mental health. And then at the end, we will leave some room for Q&A. Today, it's going to look a little bit different because I will be having a guest join me in this conversation, in which together we are going to be having a conversation and talking about a very important and essential topic that both her and I believe is really helpful in our lives, especially in our careers. So for today, we are going to talk about overcoming fear of failure, empowering Latinas with the growth mindset at work. Okay, so I'm super excited, to talk about the realness about fear, right? This fear of failing that can sometimes impair us from us being able to achieve the goals that we want, whether it's life, career, personal, relationships. So I can't wait to get into it. Before we do that, let me, introduce myself. My name is Norma Garcia. I am a licensed clinical social worker and life coach. I've had the honor to be running this series now for about 6 months. So I can't believe that time is just, going by, but it's always great, to be here, to be in this energy, to be with all you beautiful gente that, are joining in. Over the last 10 years, I have devoted my time specifically in working with the BIPOC community with an emphasis in the Latinx community and providing direct mental health and crisis services. My approach is to always be culturally sensitive. I know that as a Latina, talking about and incorporating culture is essential to our healing. My approach is also holistic, looking at all parts of ourselves and also from a trauma-informed lens. I am very passionate about empowering Latinas, women of color, to heal their emotional wounds and essentially be able to reach their full potential. A mission of mine is always to continue advocating and educating on mental health, breaking generational trauma and cycles, and be able to create as much impact as I can. So without further ado, I am going to invite our guest for today. Her name is Alejandra Thompson, and I will let her tell you all who she is because no one better can say than herself. So you guys can all help me to welcome Alejandra.
Hello.
Hi, Alejandra. How are you?
Good. It's so good to see you. I'm excited to be here and thank you. It's just even looking at the chat, we got people from all over. I love it. We got people
Yes.
in the States, outside the States, just repping all different cities. And so I'm excited to be here. I appreciate each and every one of you for making it here. My name is Alejandra Thompson, and I am a leadership coach. My work is dedicated to empowering Latinas to get promoted into leadership and make more money. So I've helped my clients break into their first director level role, their first manager role, change career paths, quit toxic jobs. Some folks start their businesses with me. And so there's a variety of things, but ultimately, my work is really in empowering Latinas to thrive and feel like they have purpose in their life and that they're really stepping into that purpose. I'm also a first gen Latina myself. My parents hail from Colombia. So if any Colombianas in the house, drop some flags, let me see you represent. And I love working with this community because I really want to see more of us in leadership. So I'm excited to talk about overcoming fear of failure. I'm excited to talk about developing a growth mindset because they're really key things that I've noticed are so important for me to work on with my clients so that they can thrive and they can break into realms that they didn't even think were possible. So thank you for having me here, Norma. I'm looking forward to this.
Yes, of course, and for me, it's an honor to have you here with us, right? This series has been focused a lot on mental health, right? And part of that is also learning strategies and coping tools that are essential for us, like you said, to reach our full potential, to thrive, right? Today, we're going to really focus on our like, how do we thrive in our careers, right? And in our conversation, right, we talked about, the reality that fear of failure, the fears that come up for us, our imposter syndrome, our doubts, right? These are things that are real for us and that are valid, right? And so we thought, what perfect way, for us, in terms of, talking about how mentally and emotionally that impacts, right, us. And then for you to be here as well and provide your expertise in terms of how is it, that we move through these fears, right? How is it that these fears impact, right, ourselves in terms of, how we show up at work, how it is that we navigate, right, these thoughts and these emotions. So I thought, for today, we start off by, talking about, how is it that, as professionals, especially as Latinas, as first gens, right? How is it that fear does impact us, specifically in our professions? And that's even just in the room, right? There's so many different professionals that are here, right? Not just from different places, but people are coming in with different strengths, different experiences, different talents.
Yeah, absolutely. Fear of failure is a big one. And I first want to say, like, this is a very normal feeling to have. Like, feeling afraid of failing is normal. You're not broken, you're not weak. It's just a fear that we all normally will have is like, I'm afraid of failing. And the ways that I really see this show up in the way that it impacts my clients' careers, a lot of Latinas that I'm seeing is number one, when we fear failure, we don't take risk. And it's a huge difficulty to grow in our careers when we're not willing to take a risk because we're missing career advancements that we could be taking, but we're too afraid of the risk that is there or any kind of growth prospects that we have. So we're not willing to take risk. And that is very detrimental to us being able to grow and us being able to take on new roles that are going to be outside of our comfort zone. Number two, we don't grow. So if we're not taking risks, we're not able to grow. Growth oftentimes is going to require a risk. You going after that director level job, even though you've gotten up to manager and up to there, that's a risk, and you've got to be willing to take it in order to learn from it. But when we're not willing to take risks, number two is we don't grow, and so then we're stagnant. We're in the same spot. And I know some of you will resonate with this, where we feel like, dang, I've been in the same spot for years. Like, I work with clients and they come to me and they're like, I've been in my career 10 years now, and I don't know why I'm not farther than I want. I'm not making as much as I want. I have a master's degree and I'm still under 100K living in a major city. Like, what am I doing wrong? And so there's like a stagnation that happens in the career. And then the third one is like, we don't go after leadership positions. We don't go after leadership positions when we have a fear of failure, because in leadership, we tend to have more eyes on us. And so there's a bigger fear of like, I'm going to fail. Not only am I going to know, but other people are going to know, and that's going to be embarrassing. And so those are the really big elements that I see is we don't take risks, we
Mhm.
don't grow, so then we're stagnant, and then we don't go for leadership positions. And yeah, Gabriella goes, we miss all the opportunities we don't go after. Absolutely. And I think that's really a big piece that I see when we fear failure. And I know, Norma, you can probably speak a little bit more to this, but there's definitely there logically we can understand sometimes. Like I have clients who are like, I'm smart, I have X years of experience, I've done this and this and this, but like I can't seem to get over this. So I think there is definitely maybe like a nervous system. There's something
Yeah.
that is just going on emotionally that makes it really difficult. And so a lot of my work is helping clients get through that. But that's probably more your wheelhouse of seeing like that's also normal, like for you to logically understand something, but be like, dang, I just can't seem to get over that.
Yeah, yeah, and I love that you are touching upon those points and are really normalizing that process because it's very real. It's very real, and a lot of the clients that I work with in terms of mental health, right? Whether it's career, that there's these blocks that we have. There's these like, mental blocks. There's these emotional blocks, and really what I find is that the underlying thing happening is fear, right?
Hmm.
That we're scared, to lean into things that are uncomfortable, lean into things, because again, fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of disappointment, right? There's so much that comes with it. So it's a two-level fold in terms of like the mindset that goes with it. And today we're going to really focus on developing that growth mindset, right? But also understanding the role that your emotions play in it, right? Because fear is an emotion.
Hmm.
And usually it's, if we focus only on our fear, right? And that's how we're basing our behaviors, our reactions, right? And if we are holding ourselves back from those fears, we're not able to then, reach to the next thing. And like you said, we stay stuck and we stay stagnant. Um, so I absolutely, I think it's great that you are, bringing up, those points. And a lot of the times too, is really understanding, right? Like getting the root of what are your fears, right?
Yes, someone in actually in the chat that I really appreciate your vulnerability and honesty, Marisol, for sharing. I realize that the root of my fear is a fear of failure stems from a lack of self-worth. And I
Mhm.
resonate with that so deeply, Marisol. I appreciate you sharing that because I think other people are going to as well. Where for me, that's a big one where my performance is really tied to my worth. And so if I do a poor performance, if I don't do something in excellence, and by excellence, I mean it has to be done perfectly, then my
Mhm.
self-worth lowers. And that's because of a detachment that I had to make for myself, which is still something that I work through on a regular basis, especially as an entrepreneur. But that is definitely a big one for some people, is the attachment to the self-worth. And we're going to go over like how you develop a growth mindset. And I think that will also help a lot of the people that are listening in and watching here on how they can begin to address overcoming that fear of failure. But it's so good. I wanted to point that out. Thank you, Marisol.
Yeah, absolutely. And fear is something that, although it is scary, it's something, especially in our work, right? We, with the clients I work in, I encourage people to lean into that fear,
Hmm.
right? To
Hmm.
explore what that fear would be, and then even to be able to ask, right? Like, what's the worst that can happen here?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Especially because we think about like, our thoughts and our fears. Our thoughts are just statements, right? They're not facts. But when we give into it and we feel like, okay, this, if this is how I think, then this must be true. Even our feelings, right? Like if I feel I'm gonna fail, right, I'm gonna then believe that I'm a failure.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, that's really good. Really good.
So I definitely want to have the opportunity, Alejandra, to for you to, talk to us about how is it that, you are able to work, with your clients, right, that are coming in with these fears, and even then how is it that you even get to recognize that that's the barrier, right? Because sometimes it's just like, we kind of block ourselves and don't know exactly what the block is.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, like, how do we recognize when we do have fear that's showing up? And so, I think one of the big things, I feel like when we can recognize, oh, this is a fear of failure, sometimes we
Mhm.
don't know what's going on, right? So, there's like a step. Like, first, we got to know that that's what's happening. Sometimes we don't even know that is what's happening. And I think one of the big things that you want to ask yourself is if you do have a goal that you're trying to get to, what is the thing stopping you? Are they
Mm,
statements in your brain that's saying like, oh, but this isn't going to work out, or I'm never going to be able to do that, or I'm just not good at doing something like that? I really building awareness on what you're saying to yourself is going to tell you a lot on whether you have fear of failure. And so sometimes I even have clients who are really having a hard time even signing up for coaching with me. And when we do some digging, it's like, it's a fear of failure. Like, what if I sign up for coaching and I still don't get the promotion, or I still don't get the salary increase? Like, what does that say about me? And so a lot of times you have to do some digging. And I think one of the best ways to even tell if you are fearing failure and if that's the thing stopping you is, what is the goal that you have and what's been the thing that's preventing you from that? And pay very close attention to the statements that you're saying, because they could be excuses or they could be truths that are very much in your reality that are like, not, you're not capable of doing a certain thing. So I think once you're able to explore that, you'll be able to expose whether you are in a cycle of fearing failure and that's what's holding you back, or whether you have
mm,
very real circumstances that need to kind of keep you where you are in the moment and plan for a way that you can move from that place to your goal.
yes, yes, yes. Yeah. And here someone in the chat, Gabriela, she mentioned also, that our fears can also show up, at wrong times, right? And that this fear too, it can show up anytime, right? But especially when we're having to make a decision, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
That's when it really comes up, because sometimes that's the very same thing, that holds us back. So, um,
Yeah.
like you mentioned, having first a level of awareness, right?
Mhm.
Understanding what it is that is holding you back. And sometimes it could be our emotions like fear, but sometimes it's like, what are the thoughts connected to that fear, right? What are our
Mhm.
beliefs? What's our belief system, right? So if
Yeah.
we really feel that we're a failure, right, that fear is going to come tag right along with it, right? Be like,
Yeah.
yes, I'm here with you because this is your belief system. This is your belief. So yes, I'm going to be here and be scared, with you. So it's a really complicated. Today we're not going to get into all like the deep, strategies, but just start, one, recognizing, right, that fear is going to come up, right? How do we have that awareness? And then moving next into, how do we overcome this, right? How do we
Yes.
work through our fear? Like, what is it that we need to do for ourselves to then be able to overcome the fear, meaning that there may still be fear present, right?
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
how do we get through it so that way we are able to then either go for what we want, right? Achieve those goals, or even take that risk. So,
Yeah, yeah. And I find the growth mindset piece is such a big one. And so well, first, let me kind of get a sense, like when I say when I say growth mindset, because I feel like this is one of those words that is just like kind of pop psychology now, very much well used. But just keep it 100 with us. No one's judging you. Do you know what that means? Like if right now you had to look at a 5-year-old and they said, Thea, what's a growth mindset? Could you very simply tell them what a growth mindset is? Put yes, no, or not sure in the chat. Let me
mm,
see where we're at right now. And then after that, I want to go over, okay, what a growth mindset is not versus what a growth mindset
mm,
is, so that we can all be on
mm,
the same page. And then I'm going to give you all a very, simple framework that I think can help you as we move forward and as you move forward in your careers to be able to overcome failure. So we have yes, 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 no, not sure, no. Okay, cool. We got a mix. Love
yeah.
it. No. The term is trendy. There you go. That's the word. I'm like, there's a word. Maybe. Okay. Thank you all. Thank you all so much. Then let's go ahead. What a growth mindset is not. Let's first go over little things that I think sometimes can get confusing. A growth mindset is not the same as a positive mindset. Those are two separate things. And one is not necessarily like better, or I'm not advocating for one over the other, but they're not the same. A growth mindset is not a positive mindset. A growth mindset is not about thinking happy thoughts all the time. It's not about like, I need to stay positive in this situation. A growth mindset is not about even like focusing on your weaknesses all the time. A
Mm,
growth mindset is not denying that some people got natural talents, because the truth is some people do. A lot of people, all of us have some strength in some way or another. It's not something that you just put in and you're like, it's one and done. I developed a growth mindset back in 2023 with that webinar with Norma and Alejandra. I'm good to go. Like, it's something that will continue to happen over and over for the rest of your life. And it's not a quick fix. It's not something that we just implement and it's a quick fix. So that's what a growth mindset is not. And so what a growth mindset is, very simply, it's the belief that your abilities can be developed through hard work and dedication.
Mm-hmm.
That's all a growth mindset means. It's the belief that you can develop an ability that you have through hard work and dedication, through learning, through practice, through like just doing it over and over again. And so that's what a growth mindset is. And when we see like the difference between now what we call a fixed mindset. So when people talk about a growth mindset, they compare it to a fixed mindset. Our growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. A fixed mindset is one that's going to avoid challenges. It criticism and feedback you take super personal. Like you take feedback as she don't like me, or I knew I should have never done this. I'm not good enough to be here. It can be an attack on your self-worth. Like that's when you can see that you may have remnants of a fixed mindset. Failure means you suck. And so obviously you're going to fear failure if you believe you suck as a person because you fail and you are threatened by other people's success. So those are some kind of ways that you can begin to see that you have a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset. You're going to face challenges, you're going to accept feedback, you'll implement it, you're focused on growth, you're learning from failures, and you genuinely celebrate other people when they win. Because there's a difference between like celebrating, yes, go girl, and then like in your heart, you're like, I should have gotten that promotion, or there's like a ting right there. So there's a difference between that genuine, like you genuinely are able to celebrate other people in their wins. And so in a growth mindset, the reason it's so critical is because then you get to take an area of your life and your career and go, okay, I may not be the strongest networker at this moment, but I believe that I can get better.
Yeah.
I may not be the best at presentations, especially when it's in a room full of senior leaders that are predominantly white men, but I believe that I can get better. You are able to take areas in your career that maybe right now feel really difficult for you, but a growth mindset and developing one is about really being able to set your heart and intention on, I believe that I can get better in this area. And a growth mindset is not like, you may have a growth mindset right now in one area of your life. You may have it in maybe friendships, or you may have it in your marriage. You may be like, yeah, I'm not so great at, let's just say, cooking, but I believe I can get better if I keep trying. If I keep reading these recipes, I believe I can get better. But maybe it's not showing up in your career. Maybe it's not showing up in public speaking. Maybe it's not showing up in certain areas. And so that's what I also mean. Like a growth mindset is not a one and done. It's not a quick fix, because we'll see that there's other areas where we might not be having a growth mindset. And so I first wanted to just lay the groundwork. That's what a growth mindset is versus what it is not. And I believe that if we look at the definition by just like pure objectively looking at the definition, I think that we can all agree that we can all get better at something if we try really hard. I feel like we understand that, but we just need to be able to catch ourselves when we are not exemplifying that in our lives and in our careers, because that's what's going to lead to, like I talked about, not taking risks, the stagnation, and not being able to really step into leadership positions, like I said. So I know I just said a lot there, Norma. Is there anything you want to say to that before I like continue on? And I want to check out the
No,
chat.
I mean, I think you defined it, beautifully, right? And again, it's going back in terms of like how we interpret things, right? How is it, that when a situation happens, like what meaning are we making of it? And what the growth mindset is saying is being able to view, right, your mistakes, feedback as areas of growth, areas of opportunities, that your mistakes, right, are opportunities to learn, right? And so this is again, having this growth mindset as well versus the fix, seeing how it also can affect, right, like your mood, your motivation, your worth, right? How it can impact you in a more positive way versus then discourage you, right? Or like then push you away from reaching those goals or whatever it is, So it's always, understanding that we also have a control of this, right? In
Yeah.
terms of like how exactly we're responding to the situations. And the growth mindset is a way just to give us the opportunity also to be compassionate, right? To be
Yeah.
kinder to ourselves, and also, right, know that, like, as you said, we can improve, right? That we
Yes.
may not be born necessarily with like all the abilities, but there's room for improvement.
Yeah, and we there's always room for improvement. And I think this is going to go really great into the framework that I have in terms of developing a growth mindset, because you mentioned something, self-compassion is what you were really alluding to, is like us being able to have compassion for ourselves. And so write this down, make sure you take some notes. This is going to be a good one, you all. So developing your growth mindset, I use a scale framework. So scale is an acronym, SCALE, and this is an acronym I like to use to help my clients develop a growth mindset. And so, number one, S is self awareness. So, we got to be able to have self awareness of where are the areas that you're telling yourself that right now you're just not good at, that you just can't get better at. And I want you to really think about how it's impacting your career. So, as an example, I'm an introvert, INFJ in Myers Briggs. And for a long time, networking was like pulling teeth. I didn't want to do it. I was like, this is just isn't for me. It's too hard. And I had to build self awareness. I had to develop a growth mindset because I realized this is going to be very detrimental to my career, but also my business when I entered entrepreneurship. So, self awareness, where are you right now saying, I'm just not good at that? That's just not for me. I can't do it. But you know that it's a critical thing for your career growth. Have self awareness on what those things are. Have self awareness on the thoughts that what it is that you say about yourself and to yourself. And then the second one, which is where I really think that self compassion comes in, the C is change your self talk. So change the narrative that you have about yourself. If you just say, like for me, I'm an introvert, I'm just not good at that. That's just not my thing. I had to be like, you know what? I'm capable of learning. I'm an introvert, so I do really well one on one. I can use that as a strength. I had to change my self talk when it came to networking. I had to change my self talk when it came to public speaking in order for me to get to the place that I am now. And so that's C, change your self talk. A, accept challenges. Accept challenges when they come forward, accept them. And if this is something like a place that you're having a really hard time with, you can start with small challenges. So, as an example, public speaking for me was terrifying. You couldn't pay me to do what I'm doing right now 5 years ago. You just would have never caught me here. But I had to accept little challenges. I had to accept the challenge of maybe posting a video of me talking and
Mm,
put it on my Instagram story. And then I had to maybe create a reel. And then maybe I had to like record a video and share it with a friend. I
mhm,
started small with the challenges and I built the muscle in it. So A is accept challenges. L is learn from and reflect on your mistakes. Mistakes will happen. If we are trying to learn something, we are going to make mistakes. No baby ever starts walking just straight out, doesn't fall ever. Like, no, they're going to fall. And we don't shame that baby. Like, how dare you fall from learning how to walk for the first time? Like, of course they're going to fall. We got to help them get back up. You got to help yourself get back up when that happens, because mistakes are going to happen. So the L is learn from and reflect on mistakes. And E is embrace the journey. Especially to all my perfectionists out there, embrace the journey. It's going to get a little messy. We're going to make mistakes. Embrace that all of that is a part of the journey. And so, again, scale for developing your growth mindset. S is self awareness. C is change your self talk. A is accept challenges. L is learn from and reflect on your mistakes. And E is embrace the journey. Thank you. Putting it in the chat. I love this. Amazing. So yes, thank you. I really wanted to share that because I want you all to have a tangible thing to walk away with and to really have with you all. And so have that written down and go like, oh wait, this is what Alice said. S, I need to be self-aware. Just go through that framework for yourself and know that you can break barriers, you can continue to grow, and you can develop in any area that you feel like right now is holding you back in your growth.
wow, Alejandra, that right there, even myself, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, but
Mhm.
I love, I love acronyms and the fact that you are giving this as a guidance, right? Because essentially it's a process, right? It's not just like, okay, fear, bye, like I'm here, or like growth mindset, like I did it, right? But it's a
Yeah.
process, right? And I think the way that you outlined this was so beautifully said, right? And that you touched upon different elements that are so true and necessary, right?
Yeah.
Especially with, the self-awareness, and also, again, the room for improvement, that we are in control. The thing I tell my clients always is that one of the things that you can only control is yourself, your thoughts, your feelings, and your behaviors, right?
Yeah.
What happens to you, it's obviously a bit harder, but even this, with your acronym, just how much accountability, and also control that you have within yourself, right? To be able
Yeah.
to make these necessary changes for that you can be able, right, to achieve what you want and go after you want, whether it's like, in your career, in your personal life, in your relationships, right, that you all have the capacity, right, you have the ability, to develop, these skills, it's this mindset, regulation, all it is,
Yes.
even like, when you're talking, I'm thinking about, for me, just even being here, right, like speaking, right, doing presentations, like for
Mhm.
I'm telling you, this was not like in my agenda,
It wasn't on your vision board?
It was not on my schedule, but when I keep showing up, right, that's when
Yeah.
then, okay, wait a minute, like I can develop this, and
Yeah.
the more that I do it, the more that I'm also like, learning to embrace the journey. And even if I make a mistake, or even, if I say too many ums, right? This is me being vulnerable, right?
Mhm.
Those are moments like, okay, this is what's going on. Let me reflect, but then now let me do it better. So
Yeah.
I truly, truly, appreciate just you giving us your insight and your expertise, right? And the importance, right, to be able to have this growth mindset, and how much of an impact, right, it can have, specifically with, as we're all here as professionals,
Yeah.
right? How is it that then we can take ourselves to the next level, because we deserve it. We
Yeah,
work too
absolutely.
hard, right? We got into where we have, and it's all because we've all done that.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. No, thank you. And I love the chat going off, and please, I'd love to connect with you all. I think Norma, if you could drop my link in there in the chat, that would be awesome. That way
Yes.
people can connect with me. And I know we're at the 8:33 mark, Norma, but do you want to, are you okay to take a
Yeah,
question?
we
How
can
are
take a few
you?
questions. Absolutely, yes.
Okay, awesome. Let's see. I'll look and see because I don't know if anyone dropped the question earlier, but we won't get too many. But if you have a question, please look at in the chat. Alma just pulling up for someone else who needed the L and the E.
Ah!
Thank you. Alejandra, with your expertise and this is Valeria Lopez saying, Alejandra, with your expertise and experience, what would you share about how a Latina can become aware of imposter syndrome and how
Mm.
this affects us in our profession and our career long term? Okay, really good. Imposter syndrome, I would say, the way that you can become aware about it, this is really going to go back to self-awareness and understanding what are the things that you're saying about yourself. So are you saying that I don't belong here? Are you saying that I don't have enough experience? I want you to pay attention to the things that you're saying about yourself. And then what I want you to do is there's a tool that I call, well, I didn't name this, it's a tool that exists out and I like to use with my clients. It's called interpretation versus fact. And so I like to really lay out what are the things that you're saying about yourself, which is what we call the interpretations, and what is the fact of the situation. As an example, Valeria, I was just talking to a client the other day and she was like, yeah, I know I'm smart and I'm ambitious and I have all this experience and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, tell me what your target titles are. And she was like, manager, like senior manager. I'm not ready for a director level role. And, I let her keep talking. And I was like, okay, so tell me, why are you not ready for a director level role? And she kind of just like froze. Like she wasn't expecting me to ask that question. And she was like, I just don't know if I have enough experience. And it's like the boldness, confidence that she was showing like 5 minutes prior was like completely quieting down. And she was like, and I was like, okay, what would be enough experience? So this is an example. If you say, oh, I don't have enough experience, just ask yourself, what would be enough experience? So I asked her, what would be enough experience? And she was like, 8 years of management experience. I was like, okay, where did 8 years come from? And she just started laughing. She was like, I don't know. I just made that up. Like, I just made up that number. And I was like, okay. So something we can maybe do is let's look at director level positions and let's see how many years they're asking for. Like maybe they are asking for 8 years. Maybe
Mhm.
they're asking for 3. And so this is a tangible, like what is the word I'm using? An anecdote in order for me to express that you want to build self-awareness. In order for you to know about when imposter syndrome is happening, you need to build self-awareness about the things you're saying about yourself, where you don't have enough experience, where you don't belong. And then I want you to actually have a talk with yourself and go, what is the truth of the matter? Because
Mm-hmm.
imposter syndrome will oftentimes sound like very vague statements. I don't belong here.
Right.
I'm not good enough. I don't
Yeah.
have enough experience. They're very vague kind of statements. It's like, what does that mean? And when you dig into it, you're like, wait a minute. So that's one of the best ways, is to have self-awareness on the things you're saying to yourself and to actually identify what is the fact, what are the truth of this. And then you said, and how this affects us in our profession, in our career long term, similar to fear of failure. When we don't feel like we belong, or when we don't feel like we are good enough or that we deserve to be there, our performance is hindered. We have this constant fear about being either exposed, or fear of failing, because it's like we don't already belong here. So then they're going to find out. And there's just this constant fear going on. And we don't perform well under fear. We just don't. You can't tap into creativity in the same way. They're different parts of our brains. So that it really hinders our performance. It hinders the growth that we're able to have. It hinders the way that we're able to show up for other people. And ultimately, it could lead us to burnout because we're constantly in a fearful state thinking about what's going to go wrong.
Yeah.
Thank you for that question. I think we'll get to one more and then we will close out here. Yes, you're welcome. Do you have one that you see?
There's a question here by, I apologize if I'm mispronouncing, Michael. It says, how does psychological safety in the workplace play a role in growth mindset?
Yeah, it's a good question.
Yeah, and I think with this one, right, it's really assessing and evaluating your environment, right? Like, who are the key players, right? Who's who, and where is their safety, and who gets to create the safety, right? Is it an internal safety that we get to create some of that safety in terms of our support, or is the safety that we're talking about like in terms of who is there, right? So this was a bit trickier to respond. I definitely would like more information. Where this is more like you need to create this for yourself because of what's coming up for you, right? Or is it that the environment that you're in, right, it isn't an environment where there is a sense of like either safety or an opportunity for growth, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I
Right?
would say like when we feel safe, we are much more likely to take risk. We're
Yes.
much more likely to be creative. We're much more likely
Mhm.
to make a mistake when we feel safe. And even if you think about like you're a therapist normally. You could even think like as a kid, if you know that making a mistake is going to lead to a spanking, or it's going to lead
Right.
to your mother not wanting to speak to you, like that gets really, really innate. I mean, just wired in that it's not safe for me to be able to do these things. And so what comes up for me is just when we feel safe, we have a much bigger ability to be able to take risks,
Mhm.
to be
Yes.
able to make a mistake and learn from that mistake, be able to take feedback from someone because we trust that person and we feel safe with that person. And so psychological safety is something that is required of many different people. So Norma was
Mhm.
talking about like we can control our thoughts and our emotions and the things that we say about ourselves. And so to an extent, there are times that I have helped my client feel more safe in a work environment because it was a lot of what she was thinking. But I have
Mhm.
other clients where it's like, no, honey, you got to get up out of there. That's not a safe place for
Mhm.
you. And
Yeah.
so we can do all the growth mindset and we can probably help her do a thing here too. But at the end of the day, safety is fundamental to our ability to grow and to be creative.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes, thank you all so
Oh
much.
my
That was
gosh,
a good question.
tonight
That got
was,
me thinking. Thank you so much.
yeah, tonight was so empowering, Alejandra, and I'm so again thankful that you were able to come in and join me in this conversation because it's very essential, and not just understanding right the emotional part that comes from it, which is also critical, but also right the mindset,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And there's a lot of like deeper level in terms of interventions and what can be done, with the growth mindset. But I'm hoping that with today's conversation, we're able to normalize, right, that it's okay to feel your fears. Your fears are coming from somewhere, right?
Yes.
And they are connected also to a belief system, right? A belief system of how you view the world, right? Where the world is a safe place, how others view you, and how you view yourself, right?
Yes.
And so all of that is shaped through our like experiences, life, right? So this is a perfect opportunity, to reflect in terms of where you're at, in terms of where your fears are, right? And what would it look like to start developing this growth mindset and also believing in yourself and creating this self-trust as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So good. Thank you so much. And
So, I would definitely, I see some people asking for your contact info.
yeah.
That was something that we're going to absolutely do. So if you can please share that. I don't know if you're able to access the chat.
Actually, I DM'd you. Can you drop my link into the chat? I can't drop it in the chat. I
Oh,
think it's just
perfect. Got it.
permissions
Yes,
thing for
I got it right.
this. But yeah, if you just copy and paste that, yes, please connect with me, send me a message. I love hearing from you all. My community is really important for me. We're about 5K strong here in the community I have on LinkedIn. So join us, send me a message, let's chat. And I'd love to talk to y'all. And thank you so much for the questions. Thank you for engaging. This is an amazing community. The way that y'all showed up, the way that y'all
Mhm.
commented, the vulnerability and the honesty. I mean, my heart is just so warm. So thank you all for showing up, and thank you, Norma, again for inviting me here.
Absolutely. And there, I highlighted the link to find you through LinkedIn. And so again, thank you all for being here. And again, thank you, Alejandra, for sharing this space with me. And I look forward to seeing you guys all next time.
Thank you. Bye.
Buenas noches.